While I absolutely love the Nintendo Switch and put it in my top couple of consoles of all time, sometimes it can come off as the worst of both worlds instead of the best. What I mean by that is, it's not necessarily the best a home console could have been, and it's not necessarily the best handheld that it could be either. When you compare, the comfort level of the Switch to something like the Steam Deck, or a lot of people use things like a Satisfy grip to make the Switch a little more comfortable to use, or something like the Nitro Deck that you slide the console into. Well, if you have to do things like that, it really means that the Switch is not ideal in terms of its form factor. It's a little too big to be considered portable, as is the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, and they're even bigger, I get it. But it's very often that I find myself just leaving the Nintendo Switch at home. It's just too big to stick in a pocket. If I take it out somewhere, especially I have the OLED Zelda edition, and I feel like I need to put it in some kind of a case, and then you've got this big bulky case, which means you pretty much need a backpack or something. You're not just, running out at this point. It's a whole production to take your Switch with you somewhere. And I feel the same way about the Steam Deck. It's not something I really take out of the house with me unless I'm going to like a hotel or a friend's house or something where I'm going to stay for some length of time. But the other thing is, we lost a lot when we moved from the last generation into the Switch. All the way, through gaming history, from the days of the NES and the Game Boy, we had two systems parallel to each other, two different libraries, and those libraries were tailored to a certain type of experience. You had your home console that had its, bigger in scope games, and then you had your handheld, and your handheld tended to have more casual friendly stuff that you could pop in and out of, in 20 minutes here and there on the bus or at lunch break at school or something of that nature. And we've lost a lot of that variety now, having both of those libraries brought together into one Switch library. So a lot of the games that we get on the Switch now are trying to be home console games, but because of the limitations of the horsepower of the Switch, they're not as big in scope as games on, say, the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. Obviously there are exceptions like the Xenoblade series and, the recent Zelda titles like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are very big in scope. But most of the games that we get on the Switch are somewhere in between a handheld game and a console game. But they're not necessarily fantastic as handheld games either. A lot of times I noticed when I had a Switch Lite back in 2020 that certain games really weren't ideal on that small screen. Dragon Quest XI comes to mind. The text is too small. The mini-map is too small. You really can't see what's going on. But later in this video here, we're going to get to a list of 10 games that I think are fantastic on the Switch Lite that will make you fall in love with the Switch Lite as a dedicated handheld. The Switch Lite is a fantastic device that fits perfectly in your hands. I should have had it right here to show on screen, but I think you all know what a Switch Lite looks like. It's just the right size. It's a bit bigger than a Vita, so, the screen size is decent for games that are designed to be played handheld. As long as those sprites are nice and big and the viewpoint is zoomed in enough that you can see what's going on, the Switch Lite is a fantastic system. It's great for the Nintendo Switch Online, for all of those old retro games. It is my preferred system to play NSO games. The other thing to consider is whether this is going to be your primary device or a supplementary device. For me, I have two. I recently picked up the Zelda Echoes of Wisdom Special Edition Switch Lite, which I'd been waiting for a long time. I've had a Switch Lite in the past, and I traded it for a pretty good deal. But having now both devices, the OLED, which I leave mostly docked and play docked games, and then having the Switch Lite as my primary handheld device has been an absolute game changer in terms of giving me that handheld feel on the go, which I absolutely love. So the Switch Lite feels like a handheld. You can stick it in your pocket. It fits in a jacket pocket. It fits in a hoodie pocket. Obviously not in your tight jeans or whatever, but it's just the right size that you can actually carry this thing around. And because of the price point, the fact that these things are nearly half the price of a Switch, you don't feel so bad about letting it bang around in the car or bounce around in your pocket with your phone and your keys, because it's cheap and it's replaceable. So let's get into 10 games that I think really showcase just how great the Switch Lite is. So the first one that I'm playing right now is Pokemon Shield. And I have never been able to get into a Pokemon game. I've tried several. I've played several hours of Heart Gold on the DS. I've played several of the games on the 3DS. And I've tried to play Pokemon Scarlet on my regular docked Switch, and I liked them all for what they were, but I never really got into a Pokemon game until I started playing Pokemon Shield on my Switch Lite. It's absolutely perfect for casual in and out play. You can pop in, between jobs at work or while you're sitting waiting at the dentist and do a couple of Pokemon battles, close the screen and move away. It's absolutely the perfect on-the-go game. Next we have the new Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And this game lends itself really well to the small screen as well. That smaller screen has a higher pixel density to the same resolution, so it actually looks really fantastic. And because this game has a lot of bright colors and large sprites, it plays and looks wonderful on the Switch Lite. I'm really enjoying my time with this game. A lot of people have a mixed reception to this game, and we just found out at the investor meeting today that this has only sold about 2.5 million copies, which is kind of shocking. But if you haven't played this game yet, go out and pick this game up and play it on your Switch Lite. You will understand once you do how fantastic of an experience it is in handheld, being able to pick this up and play it for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then just close it and come back to it later, here and there throughout the day. That's really the theme of this video. For me, I have a busy life. I have 10 or 15 minutes here and there that I can play a game, and usually I just end up doom scrolling on my phone because it's not worth it to dig out the big Switch and everything and take it places with me. But if I'm out and about with my Switch Lite in my pocket, I can totally enjoy these games. Here's another one that really lends itself well to handheld play, and that is Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. This game really flew under the radar. They failed to release this game during the height of the Russia-Ukraine war, and it came out like a year later to zero fanfare, and nobody's talking about this game. But this is a fantastic remaster. These games look and play great, and because of the big blocky sprites, it is wonderfully playable on that smaller screen. If you like, that kind of tactical combat, and you haven't played these games, I highly recommend them. They're super, super fun. All right, here's another game that is probably arguably played best on the Switch Lite, and that is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. This is another remake or remaster of an older GBA game, and I absolutely love this series, and this game is fantastic. Absolutely love being able to pop in, do one little puzzle or 2 or 3 little puzzles, and then close the Switch and walk away. Absolutely perfect for casual play, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. The way that the game structure is broken up, you can beat a little map in 2 or 3 minutes. So it feels like you're accomplishing something, even if you only have 5 minutes to play. All right, here's a little bit bigger, more, bigger scope game for sure, and that is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now, if you're going to play this game, you do have to play for 10 minutes or so to get through a level. But the way that this works, you get through a fantastic 3D platforming level in 10 minutes or so, and then you can put it down and walk away. I love this game. It is so bright and colorful and charming, all the different abilities that Kirby gets. Kirby's always been a favorite of mine, at least since the Wii days, and I have several Kirby games that I absolutely love and treasure. This being the first open 3D sort of game in the Kirby universe. There's a lot to do, a lot to explore, and a lot to love here in this game. And while I don't necessarily think it's better on the Switch Lite, I think this game will show you what the Switch Lite is capable of. Here's a game I haven't got too far into just yet, but that is Yars Rising. This just came out a couple of months ago, and I was super excited about this. This is a WayForward developed Metroidvania, but kind of a light Metroidvania. It's not super hard. It's not, super hard to find your way around. I wouldn't say it's baby's first Metroidvania. We do have another game on this list that I would call baby's first Metroidvania, but this is such a fun narrative-driven game, super cool aesthetic. I absolutely love the looks of this, and it plays and runs fantastic on the Switch Lite. Again, being able to pop in and out. Now, you can do that on the regular Switch too, but I just find carrying this around in my pocket is so much easier. Where I work, I often get 10 to 15 minutes here and there between dealing with certain things in my job, and I can just pick this up and play a little bit, and, before you know it, I've put 4 or 5 hours into a game in a week, just playing it 10 and 15 minutes here and there, which is really important for me because I don't have a lot of time in one sitting to actually put into a game. And when I do, I usually want to put it into a big JRPG or something like that. So being able to play some of these smaller titles in little bits and pieces absolutely is the way to go for me. All right, speaking of baby's first Metroidvania, Disney Illusion Island. This game is way more fun than it has any right to be. Don't just think of this as a licensed kids game. This is definitely a game with some quality behind it. The art is very cool. The story is nifty. And this is a lot of fun to play. Now, it is a very simple Metroidvania. But don't let that deter you because the combat is fun, the puzzles are fun, and I absolutely enjoy going through this game. It's just a joy just to pick up and play a couple of levels of. Here's a game I can't talk highly enough about, and that is Snack World: The Dungeon Crawl. This is a level 5 game. The people that made Ni no Kuni, for example, like super quality studio, level 5, and Snack World is an interesting sort of Diablo light, where you're doing sort of dungeon crawling with Diablo style combat with all kinds of different moves that you can equip. You have different characters. You go out into an overworld and do some combat, and then you unlock a dungeon. It has kind of a roguelike element to it where you try to get farther and farther in the dungeon, and you may not beat it on your first try. There are really interesting boss battles. This game is very Japanese, I have to give it that. But I absolutely adore this game, and it is absolutely perfect with big, bright, colorful sprites on the screen for that Switch Lite, and the gameplay style lends itself to short gameplay sessions. All right, now we have Monster Hunter Stories: Wings of Ruin. absolutely, this, if you're looking for an alternative to Pokemon that's maybe a little more mature but not Shin Megami Tensei, this is that meet in the middle where you have a pretty cool story, better graphics than the average Pokemon game, and pretty neat monsters to collect and battle. It's a lot of fun, really, and I actually just ordered the first game. The first Monster Hunter Stories was a 3DS exclusive, and it was recently remastered and brought to Switch as well. There is a combo pack that you can buy with both games on it, but I already had this one, so I chose to import the standalone remaster of the first game, which should be coming from Play Asia pretty shortly. I've never played that one. I really enjoyed this one, though, so I'm looking forward to going back to the first one. And because it's a 3DS remaster, I think it's also going to be fantastic on the Switch Lite. And for our last game here, we actually do have a JRPG and a game that is fairly deep, and that is Trials of Mana. I absolutely adore this game. It's fantastic. The combat is fun. It's basically an action RPG where you hack and slash your way through and you get some special moves and magics and things like that, but it's relatively simple. You don't have super complex skill trees. You don't have combos all over the place with, crazy button combinations or anything. This is something that you can hack and slash your way through on the couch while you're watching a TV show and absolutely enjoy your time with it. It does have a pretty interesting story, and it has absolutely beautiful graphics that just pop on that Switch Lite screen. Anyways, guys, what do you guys think of the Switch Lite? So many people seem to hate the Switch Lite, call it, a lesser version of the Switch, and in some ways I guess it is. It doesn't necessarily play the entire library, almost the entire library, but what do you think about the Switch Lite? Do you own one? Would you like to own one? Were you considering buying that Zelda one just as a collector's item? I know I am playing the crap out of mine, and I absolutely enjoy it. I haven't taken my OLED off the dock since I got it a month or whatever ago. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.